What's going on? I got a really important video. It's been on my heartstrings to shoot this for a while, and that is a major problem that's very dangerous for people, especially women in their 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s that are sedentary, is they break their hip. In the past, 10, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, when someone broke their hip in that age category, it was called the kiss of death, because they almost always died from complications from that. We're a little bit better at treating a broken hip, but hey, let's not get a broken hip. Let's get stronger bones, and let's be precautious. I got two things that I want to share with you, and I really want you to share this with your mom and dad, that will dramatically decrease the chances of someone breaking their hip. There's the misconception. My mom's 78, 79, Mean Jean Steen. So I have been training her for the last 10 years so that she can have a better chance of living stronger and longer. And it's worked very well. She's really into it, and she takes it very seriously. She comes into my transformation station here. Last couple months she hasn't been able to because she's battling something, but she's getting better, so we're hoping we can get her back in here. And she's definitely increased her quality of her life because of weight training with my unique techniques. So here's a misconception about people breaking hips. People believe that it happens a lot in the morning, and I'll tell you why. People believe that they break their hip. They believe that they fall, and the fall is breaking their hip. But that's not what's going on in elderly people. They're getting up out of bed and they're twisting, breaking their hip, and then they're falling after they break their hip. Most people don't even understand what happened, but that's what happens. The image, I believe it's below this video or right to the side of it, is the upper leg bone called the femur bone. The femur bone is different in everybody, but it's about that thick. And there's a socket that goes on top of the femur bone that goes into the hip, the acetabulum of the hip. And then that ball moves. So the femur is about that thick, but the part of the bone that attaches the ball to the femur bone is super, super thin. You can see on the image over here, which it's over here, I believe, that the thin part that attaches the ball to the femur bone is very thin. And even normal people, that's a problem area, but people sedentary in their 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s that are not moving much and aren't exercising, all their bones are very soft. They're very subtle and soft and porous. They break very easily. And this is what happens to most elderly people that break their hip. It usually happens in the morning when there's no blood flow, there's no warmth, everything's cold, and they get out of bed, and here's what happens, usually. I'll back up so you can see me. So they sit up on the edge of their bed, and they stand up, and then they twist like this. That twisting movement snaps the ball off the top of the femur bone, and the ball breaks off because of how thin the part that holds the ball onto the upper leg bone, the femur, and how soft it is. So the twisting movement is what breaks their hip. So they break their hip first, and then they fall. All right, so here's what we're going to do. Since we're talking about it, first teach your mom and dad, and you get in the habit, especially in the morning, of not twisting, but keeping, sit up on the edge of your bed, take some deep breaths, and maybe just get a little bit of movement, get a little bit of blood in the hip area for a minute like that. And then as they stand up, slowly, don't twist like this and start walking like that. Make sure the toes and the eyes are always pointed at 12 o'clock straight ahead. So have them change directions like this. Now they can walk. But the traditional way is people not thinking about it, or not experienced enough to know. They get up and then they twist. That breaks their hip because of the bone being so small there and because of the twisting motion. So again, when they get up, eyes are at 12 o'clock, toes point at 12 o'clock. Always keep the eyes and the toes at 12 o'clock when you want to change directions. So little stutter steps, now they can walk, a lot less strain on the rotation, a lot less chance of breaking their hip. All right, here's the second thing. Teach your parents to do squatting exercises later in the day off the couch. You know, something about butt level. So this would be an exercise, a squat exercise for my mom. Just lean forward and stand. Butt back and down, nice and slow. I tell my mom heels in, toes out, just like I teach myself and the way I teach my clients to squat. Teach them proper technique. Feet a little bit wider than shoulder width apart, heels in, toes out, lean forward and stand. Butt back, open the hips up, knees apart. That's entry level. Have them do 5 or 8 or 10 repetitions for the first week, once a day. Then a little bit more advanced would be to not set their weight all the way down, but just down. Having the couch and the seat behind them makes them feel comfortable that they're not going to fall backwards. Eventually, within 4 or 5 exercise sessions, they can go down and up, nice and slow and controlled. What that's going to do is it's going to exercise the muscles and the quadriceps on the front, the hamstrings on the back, and the glutes, all surrounding that hip joint. So this quadricep muscle, as you exercise with this exercise I just showed you, it's going to shorten and lengthen. Shorten and lengthen. The muscles attached at the top of the femur bone and at the bottom of the femur bone. So besides strengthening the muscles over time by doing the exercise, it's also every repetition as it shortens, it's going to put pressure on the bone. It hardens the bone. Every time the squat technique happens and the muscles shorten, it's putting pressure on the bone, and it's like coal or diamonds are formed and very hard underground because of the constant pressure. The bones are the same way. They're very soft and porous, easy to bend and break when we get older. The squat exercise can put pressure on them, controlled pressure, and you start to harden the bones. The number one way to fight osteoporosis or osteopenia, the beginning of osteoporosis, is doing exercises, particularly squats for the hip and the upper thigh. Not taking osteoporosis medication and being sedentary. That is a recipe for something not good happening. So there's the 2 takeaways. Show them how to explain to them, show them this picture, tell them why people break their hips, because that bone is so small and it's soft and porous, and when people twist in the morning, they break the hip first and then they fall. They're not falling, and the fall creates the break in the hip. That's just not true. Teach them how to stand up and how to keep the toes at 12 o'clock straight ahead of them, and teach them how to do squat exercises like this to strengthen their quadricep muscles and to harden the bones so that they have a lot less chance of having any problems in their 80s, 90s, hopefully 100. Doesn't matter how long we live, we just want to live strong and be independent till the last couple weeks of our life, and I think that everybody has the ability to do that. So please, please share this video with your mom, your dad, anybody that you care about that's in their 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. Anybody can strengthen up their bones through exercise. In fact, the elderly who are sedentary, they see and feel the gains the fastest because their body responds. Their body is so soft. So just a little bit of controlled exercise, a couple sets of squats, very slow and controlled off the couch, can go a long ways at giving them energy throughout the day, increasing their metabolism, strengthening up the muscles of their hips, buns, hamstrings, and hardening the bones to lessen the chance of breaking their hip. So there you go. I love you. Share this video with your mom, your dad, anybody in their 50s, 60s, and 70s that can understand. Show them the diagram, explain to them, and you can feel good about helping the most important people in your life, you know, your parents. So you do have the power to change. Love you to make the rest of your life the best of your life.